Everyone talks about Hue, but is it actually worth a full-day trip from Da Nang? I've been based in Da Nang for a while now, and Hue is always one of those places people recommend. The ancient capital, the Imperial City, rich history, and even the birthplace of famous Vietnamese specialties like salted coffee and bun bo Hue. It sounds like something you shouldn't miss. So I finally decided to do it properly, a full-day trip from Da Nang to Hue, just to see what it's really like. Not just the highlights, but the reality, the travel time, the energy, what you can realistically see in one day, and whether it actually makes sense if you're living here. Because on paper, it sounds easy. In reality, it's a bit different. So in this video, I'll show you exactly what a day trip to Hue looks like, and more importantly, whether it's actually worth your time. But before anything else, let's talk about the reality of getting to Hue from Da Nang, because this is where most people underestimate the trip. There are a few ways to do it. If you ride a motorbike, that's probably the best experience. You go over the Hai Van Pass, enjoy the views, stop whenever you want, grab a coffee. It becomes more about the journey than just getting there. If you don't ride, the train is a great option. It takes around 3 hours, follows the coastline, and the views are actually really nice. Tickets are usually around 200,000, roughly $8. Another popular option is doing it one way with an easy rider, basically hiring a motorbike driver who takes you over the Hai Van Pass and drops you in Hue. You can book it pretty easily through hotels or online, and it usually costs around $60 to $80. In our case, it was a bit spontaneous. We didn't have much time and we were traveling as a group, so we went for the easiest option, a private driver for the whole day. We posted in a Vietnam travel Facebook group, and within a few hours got a few offers. We paid around $1.7 million, roughly $70. Most quotes were similar, so you can expect up to around $2 million with a tip. The car was actually brand new, electric, very comfortable, and the driver was super helpful, even without much English. On the way there, we took the tunnel, about 2.5 hours. On the way back, we went over the Hai Van Pass, which took closer to 3.5 hours with a short coffee stop. And this is the key part. You're looking at around 6 hours of travel in total, just for a day trip. So it's not just about Hue, it's about how much time and energy you're willing to spend getting there and back in a single day. To be honest, since we only had one day, we had to be quite selective with what we visited. When you arrive at the ticket counter, you'll see single tickets and combo options. In my opinion, the combos are actually a really good deal. Since we didn't have much time, we went for one of those and ended up visiting 3 main places: the Imperial City, Khải Định Tomb, and Tự Đức Tomb. We paid 420,000 dong each, and it was completely worth it. That was pretty much the maximum we could fit into one day without rushing too much. The Imperial City is probably the highlight for most people. It's huge, and you can easily spend a couple of hours just walking around. Some parts are very well preserved, others feel a bit more worn down, but overall it gives you a strong sense of the history and scale of the old capital. It was built in the early 19th century under Emperor Gia Long, when Hue became the capital of Vietnam during the Nguyen dynasty. The complex was designed as a political and ceremonial center, inspired by Beijing's Forbidden City. At its peak, it housed the emperor, his family, and hundreds of officials and servants. A lot of it was damaged during wars, but restoration is still ongoing today, which is why you see that mix of old and rebuilt sections. One thing to keep in mind, come here early. The heat and humidity in Hue are no joke, especially in these wide open areas. Bring water, wear a cap, and take your time. Khải Định Tomb felt very different. It's much smaller, but way more detailed and almost over-decorated in a way. The mix of Vietnamese and European styles makes it stand out immediately. It was built for Emperor Khải Định in the early 20th century and took about 11 years to complete. Unlike other emperors, he was heavily influenced by French culture, which is why the tomb looks so unique. With concrete structures, darker tones, and incredibly detailed mosaics inside. It's also built on a hillside, so you'll climb quite a few steps to reach the top. One interesting detail: the interior is decorated with thousands of tiny pieces of glass and porcelain, all arranged by hand, which makes it one of the most intricate tombs in Vietnam. It's one of those places that actually looks even better up close than in photos. And honestly, this one was probably my favorite just because of how detailed and different it feels compared to everything else. Tự Đức Tomb, on the other hand, is much more peaceful. It's spread out, surrounded by nature, and feels less crowded. It was built in the mid-19th century for Emperor Tự Đức, who used it not only as a future resting place, but also as a retreat during his lifetime. He would come here to relax, write poetry, and escape the pressure of the imperial court. The whole complex feels more like a park than a tomb, with lakes, trees, and open spaces. A pretty interesting detail here. Despite all this, Tự Đức wasn't actually buried here. His real burial site was kept secret to avoid grave robbers. Compared to Khải Định, it's definitely simpler, but the atmosphere is really nice if you just want to walk around slowly and take it in. But yeah, realistically, that was it. With the travel time and everything, we didn't have space for much more. So, the honest part, was it rushed? Not really. We took our time, had a nice Huế-style lunch, and even stopped at a cliffside cafe on the way back. It didn't feel stressful, but it was definitely a full day. Was it worth spending around 6 hours in transport? I'd say yes. The road itself is part of the experience. You pass through small Vietnamese towns and villages where you don't really see many foreigners, and that already adds something to the trip. But would I stay overnight instead? Yes. That's probably the one thing all of us agreed on afterwards. Huế has a lot more to offer than what you can see in a single day, especially when it comes to the food and the overall vibe. Not like us, who ended up in one of the more touristy spots near the walking street, and definitely felt it. By the way, if you want a more detailed breakdown of Huế, with photos, more history, and a better look at the local food scene, I've put everything in a blog post. I'll leave the link in the description. So is Huế worth it from a Da Nang base? If you're living there, I'd say yes. It's definitely worth seeing at least once. But doing it as a day trip is a bit of a stretch. The best way to do it is simple. Take the train, stay one night, and come back the next day. That way, you actually get to experience the place, not just rush through it. If you're short on time or don't enjoy long travel days, you can skip it. But if you're into history, architecture, and want something a bit different, it's a really solid trip. It's one of those places you don't fully understand in a few hours, so if you can, give it a bit more time.